Good afternoon. I'm happy to see everybody who joins us here. My name is Hola Tamadova, and it's my pleasure to see all of you here in Ukraine Media Center, Ukrinform. It's been 10 years of the war, and today is day 468 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor. And I want to congratulate all the journalists with their professional holiday, and traditionally I want to thank you for telling the truth, telling this truth to the world, telling the world about our heroic resistance. It's no secret to any of us that this war is not for the land, but is the war of civilizations, is the war of cultures, is the war of universes, and first of all is the fight for our identity. And today we have invited you, we gathered all of you to present such big cultural project, which is called Culture versus War, dedicated to Ukrainian artists in the war. This project is about the people who left their everyday lives and jobs, took up the arms to protect our homeland. I want to introduce our today's speakers. It's Andriy Rizol, producer of the project, Marco Ferraro, the program manager at the EU delegation to Ukraine, Alina Krasnyanska, executive producer of the documentaries of the project, Topolya, frontman of the Antitila band, Serhiy Vusyk, director and the musician, and Dmytro Zholud, the band guitarist. So, Mr. Andriy, I would like to give the floor to you to tell us about this presentation, about this project, about the senses that you laid as fundamental, the ideas of this project, how it will be going on, about its components, and so on. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for getting together on this day. It's another difficult day for Ukraine, for all of us. We've been working on this project for a year. We've waking up today and we're reading this news, and now we have different thoughts other than about our project. Well, we have to go through it, and I will try to be as brief as possible. If you have any questions, it will be my pleasure to answer them. We've been working on this project since April last year, as it was correctly mentioned by Ms. Olga. Russian Federation works on eradicating of Ukrainian identity, Ukrainian culture. Culture is a very broad, multi-layered term that contains a lot of terms in our project. It's culture as it is, it's historical memory, it's historical senses, values, and the fundamentals. This is the key focus of the project. So as to the components of the project, it's complex. The heart of the project, its biggest part, is a documentary. In fact, we will have 7 full-fledged products, 6 small novels, short films, dedicated to Antitila, Serhiy Mikhalchuk, a famous Ukrainian photographer Artem Tablayev, the film director Taras Komponichenko, the Liberov family, Vlada and Konstantin, and Serhiy Zhodan. The novels are focused mostly on telling the stories of our heroes, on their motives, their transformations, their view of the situation, because as it was mentioned by the Liberovs themselves, I can keep telling you about the project with the quotes of our characters. So the Liberovs that I've just mentioned, if it's not to be documented, the enemy would say it never had happened. So this project was born just out of impulse. We had no support. We were working for 4 months absolutely with no support. So this is how it was born. It was born out of their phone call, my conversation with Serhiy Mikhalchuk when he was with the arms in his hands in the beginning of April. For those who know Serhiy, is an incredible person. He never tells more than a couple of sentences per day. It's an extraordinary thing. He's an extraordinarily extraordinary person with a philosophical nature of mind, and I couldn't stop him for 40 minutes. He was telling about his psychological transformation. Then we got in touch with Taras Kadimov, and we decided that we cannot help but making those films. So a part of those 6 short movies, we will have one full-length movie which will add Mikhailo Ilyenko, Dmytro Leonardovich, Yevhen Merchuk, Yaroslav Pilonsky, Alexei Tritenko, Maxim Ruban. And this full-length movie is not a remake of the other 6 films, but it's a coverage of the topic. If the small films, if the short films, they cover the ideas or short stories, the full-length movie covers the whole idea. The project also includes photo exhibitions. We have an incredible collection of pictures provided by Serhiy Mikhalchuk and Liberov's family. We will make a number of photo exhibitions, at least 10 of them across the world, together with the demonstration of the movies and complex events. Another component is the art booth. It will not contain a lot of letters. It will be most likely a number of immersive stories. For example, our project is being advised by the philosophy doctor Natalia Krivda, and her article, The Reflections of this War as the Reflections over the Historic Context, that is incredibly important to reflect upon, to live through it in the correct manner, and to create the common vision of the future. In order to do that, we need to see those documentaries, those stories, to see the truth about the war. Our book is more of an emotional component, which should tell the stories to the audience abroad through the stories, through the pictures, and to deliver those stories to the spectators all around the world. We have publicistics. We will have more than 20 different articles and other materials, both by our direct characters of our documentaries and invited prominent people, philosophers, Natalia Krivda, that I mentioned, Evgeny Utkin, brothers Kapranovs, Volodya Koptenko, everybody who is concerned with this topic. But those authors are so charismatic and subtle that they have their own optics through which we would like to see those events. One of the tasks of the project is to demonstrate to what extent the culture is important. All those people, they keep saying about that very honestly, very openly, and I hope it will be interesting to everybody. So since the beginning of June, 3 months in a row, our publications will be issued in or publicized in Ukrainska Pravda, the Ukrainian Truth, Yulia Gulevich, Olga Stelmashevska, the specialists who work on that, they illustrate those publications. It won't be just the publications as plain text, but together with illustrations as an emotional component. So I'm about to wrap up my speech here. The project is already working actively abroad, starting from the 12th of April. As of today, we have 11 demonstrations in 10 countries all around the world in different format. But again, our project, it allows for different formats. If time allows, we may hold a 100 minutes demonstration. If there is no time for diplomatic events, we have a format of demonstration of 1 or 2 short films. But we satisfy any demand for our products. We try to find interesting platforms. We try to monitor those platforms and get in touch with the organizers right away, because these foreign affairs work is being worked with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with the Directorate of Public Diplomacy, and we have this area of work, of the systemic work with Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the peak of our activity will be in August and September. And what's also important, upon the request of any of our representatives abroad, the project and the components of the project are being subtitled, interpreted. We have 7 languages in work. It will be the maximum possible adaptation for the audience, so that people understand the essence to the best extent possible. Regarding such thing, I wanted to mention it right away. The topic of war. The topic of war is reflected in all of our products. It's incredibly sensitive and painful for Ukrainians, incredibly. And this subtlety, these documentary products, they convey the truth. We don't lose the touch with the artistic nature of it, and on contrary, our team was against any artistic movies. We were more focused on documentaries, and we also took into account the wishes of foreign audience, which accepts the products better through high quality. I mean, technical aspect of the product is very important for us: sound design, editing, the building of the footage aesthetics is a very important component of our task. I have to say, we have an incredibly cool photographer, Yura Gruzinov. He is at war now too, but every once in a while, being on rotation, he continues helping us. Not only helping, but actually helping a lot. And the last thing, what we're doing it for. In fact, there are 2 audiences here, Ukrainian and foreign audience. For Ukrainian audience, we want to demonstrate that even the prominent, famous artists are absolutely confident, absolutely convinced about our victory. They take up the arms, and this is a motivating factor for the people, for the broad audience. For our audience abroad, we want to say the same thing that Antitila keeps saying from the very first day, that we don't only fight for ourselves. We are the shield of Europe. Our values are the same. And in principle, all the foreign affairs activity is aimed at demonstrating that our Ukrainian values are equal with the European, with the best practices, with the best democratic countries of the world. And we hope that this specific message will explain to the foreign audience why they have to support Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Andriy. Mr. Marco, the question will be to you. We know that it's European Union who supported the project of association Watch Ukrainian. He supported the project financially, so I think it's one of the first projects that was supported, the first documentary project that was supported. So tell us, why is it important for European Union too?
Okay, yes, thank you for the question. Indeed, I think this is the first time that certainly Ukraine, and probably not only, that the European Union is supporting a documentary, a series of documentaries on the war. We do this because it's very important to have this human perspective that Andriy recalled. Today, media around the world, they are talking about the destruction of the Kakhovska Dam, and I already saw that this morning that on many websites abroad, the news is said, Ukraine says that the Russians destroyed the dam, But the Russians are saying that it was not them. So even before the full-scale invasion, your country has been the object of disinformation war for many years. And this is why today it's very important to bring Ukrainian voices to foreign audiences. It's also very important to bring Ukrainian voices that are coming not from the government, but from civil society, not institutional voices, but artists like Antitila and like the other artists that feature in this project. So from the point of view of the European Union and of somebody working here for the European Union, it's very important to bring create connections between Ukraine and European audiences, and this is why this project is very important. I think that it will help to reach wider foreign audiences with a different message and create empathy for the Ukrainian struggle. Also, well, I don't want to take much time because I'm the boring person here in this set, so I'll keep it short. I'll just say that beyond this project, the European Union is supporting Ukraine in many aspects. Since the war started, the European Union has mobilized 15 billion euros for financial and humanitarian assistance for Ukraine, and more than 3 billion euros for supporting military equipment for Ukraine. Not everything is bad in this scenario. I think one thing that I often notice as kind of personal reminder is that before the full-scale invasion, if you were saying Slava Ukraini outside of Ukraine in Europe, most people would look at you in a strange way. They wouldn't understand what you were saying, and they would probably look at you suspiciously. And today, when you say Slava Ukraini, many people understand what you're saying, and many people look at you with sympathy rather than suspicion. So things are changing, and we help you, and together we will defend the European values, democracy, and human rights. Thank you.
Дякую, Марко. Дякую вам за системну підтримку таких проєктів.
Thank you, Mr. Marco. Thank you for the systemic support of such projects. So I propose to watch the trailer of the project and we continue our discussion. So I'm asking our technical team to launch the trailer.
Борітеся, поборете, вам Бог помагає. За вас правда, за вас слава і воля святая.
Ну дай же нам пожити самостійно. Ми 70 років жили у такій кабалі, де нам казали, що Бога нема.
Очі країни після 24 лютого – це очі людини, яка швидко і сильно подорослішала, якій довелося бачити те, чого б вона, мабуть, і не хотіла би бачити.
Чесно кажучи, хотілося не вмерти, щоб тобі встрелили в потилицю кулю. Мені хотілося вмерти з зброєю в руках, щоб це було по-лицарськи.
У всіх у нас громадянські професії. Склалася ситуація в країні, що нам прийшлося стати солдатами. У нас є, крім автомата, є ще камера. І ми можемо те зробити, що цю історію і цю війну запам'ятають.
Приклад того, що антитіла залишили там інструменти, мікрофони і пішли воювати, це логічне рішення.
Для дуже багатьох українців стало шоком, стало цілковитою несподіванкою те, якою є Росія насправді. Тому що людей в Бучі, в Гостомелі, Ірпені гвалтували, катували і грабували не Путін Шойгу, це робили молоді російські хлопці.
Осталось щось від квартири? Нічого практично.
Тут в житті, на відміну від знімального майданчику, не буде можливості перезняти дубль. Надто страшно те, що ти бачиш.
Якби в мене була можливість ніколи не зробити цих знімків, я б не роздумуючи погодилась. Якби мені сказали, що мене ніколи не опублікує New York Times, я б з радістю погодилась. Просто краще нічого цього не було, ніяких медіа і ніякої війни.
Мистецтво – це зброя, і культура – це велика політика.
Безперечно, те, що між нами відбувається, це війна культур, це війна цінностей, це війна принципів.
Людина є результатом культури в самому широкому сенсі, того культурного ландшафту, того культурного оточення, в якої вона народжується, зростає, виховується.
Ми маємо вистояти в цій боротьбі для того, щоб реалізувати той Божий задум, бути вільними, щоб творити.
Тому боремося і в полях, і на інформаційному фронті, і на культурному фронті. І я впевнений, що найстрашніше вже позаду. І ми приречені просто на перемогу.
Alina, the question will be to you. We've just seen the trailer of the project. Now we're seeing the QR code on the screen. Dear colleagues, if you need the materials of this trailer, please feel free to download them and use them. Lina, so what was the process of shooting? I know that there were a lot of famous international artists involved in the project, so tell us how it was happening. Good afternoon, everybody. Congratulations with your professional holiday, dear journalists. It's our pleasure to have you. As to the project, honestly, I was hoping we would see the trailer of Antitila film, because I would like to give a couple of comments about that so the journalists can watch it and ask their questions. Well, as to the Antitila film and as to the work with the band, the prominent people from around the world got involved, and what's important for us is the support of world level stars such as Bono and The Edge, Ed Sheeran and many others. Those, I'm talking about the big TV channels who supported us, like BBC. They shared the film about the band that they were making in the front lines. There were incredible moves of support by big international artists who surprised us incredibly. We were facing a serious bureaucracy while searching for materials both in Ukraine and abroad, and it was a pleasure to see when people were responding with support. The situation like that happened with the management of YouTube band, with Bono and The Edge, and it also happened with the musical portals where we were taking music for the project. You will have an opportunity to listen to that music, and they were just presenting, gifting us their musical works. They told us that they don't want the situation in Ukraine to become worse and only to become better, and we appreciate it a lot. Taras, since 2014 you were actively involved in volunteers activity with your team. We've seen that work, and with the beginning of the full-scale invasion your band joined the armed forces of Ukraine, joined the territorial defense forces and took up the arms to defend our country. So I've seen the movie in full already. I know it consists on a number of your personal footage. So how it was happening, how did you decide to get involved, and wasn't there a conflict between what you wanted to show to the people and what was not allowed to be shown? Oh, you've asked a lot of questions. So let's start with the invitation. We were invited by Kadim Tarasov. It's a friend, a film director. We worked with him during the peace times, and moreover is a person who, starting from 2014, is involved in cultural resistance. You may watch our joint video at YouTube for the song Always Mine, which was made back in 2014. So when Valery Zaluzhny ordered Antitila to bring us back from Kharkiv region, Kadim met Serhiy. And honestly, it took him a long time to convince us that we have to share that footage, that we have to sit in front of the camera and tell it. And maybe their main argument was that it's a foreign audience, that we are appealing to the people abroad, first of all, because for us, just like it was demonstrated in this trailer, my quote, that it's obvious that it's up to every Ukrainian to protect their homeland in front of the enemy. So we were not thinking about any PR plan that we have to make some videos, to make some additional footage, to upload the videos of our routine online. It was because it was stressful, but it was routine. Within the first week, we were helping to equip the positions, the defense positions in our unit, to work as paramedics, CBRN protection, many different things. And our battalion, from the very first days, some of the companies were working in Irpin. There was an attack on our base during the first week of the war, and there were a lot of events happening. So the real war has come, and we were doing that job. So you're in this flow. It was so obvious that everybody is doing it. Women and children left, and all the men who were left at home. It didn't make sense to demonstrate anything to anybody. And then I got this realization that we have to work with the foreign media. And there was a contrast between the declared values, the values that the Western world was telling us about, and their actions. Ukraine was bleeding, Ukraine was yelling and crying, and there was a very slow reaction by European bureaucracy, which enraged us, and we were trying, by the side of Ukrainian journalists, Ukrainian diplomats, and civil society, to cry out loud, to reach out to them, and communication with the media, telling the facts about what's going on, something that we wanted to communicate to European establishment. It was very important back then, since the very beginning of the war. And getting back to how we decided to share those videos, we think it's crucially important to communicate it to the world, to demonstrate the facts to them. I call it Ukrainian truth about the war. It's the only truth. There is no other truth, and we have to share it. And this is why everything we made with GoPro, and we made that footage just to rectify our mistakes. We had GoPro on the head, we had GoPro on the chest, and we were working as paramedics, so we made that footage only for ourselves, to put those cases apart. And obviously we committed some mistakes, and then those materials were laid as fundamental to this movie with Antitila, because this is something we have to tell everybody about. And this modesty, this chastity, the tact, we have to put it aside, hide it. And we have to continue talking, continue crying out loud about this war. If you can tell about it from the first mouth, if you were taking part in it, you have to cry out loud about them. Otherwise, someone else will tell the world about it. We cannot afford it. Well, Ed Sheeran, U2, other powerful cultural leaders were involved in support of Ukraine thanks to your work. How was this communication going on, and is it still continuing? Again, getting back to the previous question, we hacked the system somehow, and many Ukrainians were doing it using the social networks. internet, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. They gave us the opportunity to communicate with the world more efficiently than if we would not have those tools. I'm terrified of thinking what this war would look like before the social networks appeared to deliver the truth, to deliver this fresh information just as it's happening, all the genocide, all those crimes committed by Russians. They could conceal it, and we communicated all that information to the world, us including Antitila, when we've seen that Ed Sheeran is about to take part in a charity concert, which we've just made a video just dressed as we were, where we were working. We appealed to him in English, because we can speak English. I cannot give you all of the details, and it created the chain reaction which resulted in the record of a joint song, and I'm sure Ed Sheeran will come to Ukraine with a solo concert after the war. And this is one of the tools, the art, music, communication between the authors. It's one of the channels through which we communicate the truth about this war. And we have to understand that we watch all those processes from our vantage point. And if we are in the same system of values, everybody understands, all the people in the democratic world, they understand that it's not fair what's happening. Everybody has to stand for life, democracy, liberty as the higher values, and there are at the same time real politics and own interests. And if we look at it from Ed Sheeran's vantage point, he's got a huge audience, tens of millions of people in Russia, who before the full-scale invasion were monetizing his activities. They were giving him money, but at some moment a person who confesses the same values as us, he switches that audience off. We understand that as they stand on our side, they close that market for themselves, and it's worth respect, because we're talking about millions of dollars here. I'm not even talking about this joint song. It added dozens of thousands of pounds to Music Save UA as royalty, because they transferred their royalties to us. So we cannot evaluate it from our vantage point that everybody is obliged to help us, but you have to see this work with foreign celebrities as their sacrifice, because there are artists who prefer not to notice this war. And it's difficult to judge them because it's their lives, and we appreciate it a lot. The fact that they stand with us, it's really reinforcing Ukraine, because in the information field it's like something that validates us as people. It reinforces us as those who are on the right side of history, because we have to mention that such celebrities, artists, actors, different business actors, they have their audience, and that audience is conscious in following them, or unconscious. If they say that this is square and this is round, the audience believes them, even if it's not so. And if those artists say that Ukraine is right and that the justice is on our side and we are on the right side of the war, that audience perceives them even without critical thinking. And let's not forget that those artists, they not only have audience in the democratic artists, but also in developing countries which have Russian influence, where the human values are only nascent. And imagine some random girl in India or Latin America who listens to Ed Sheeran, and he goes out in social networks and puts a Ukrainian flag in support of Ukraine, or says some things publicly that support Ukraine. So they are already less influenced by Russian propaganda that is very powerful in those countries, and those people perceive the war in a different way. So it works on the levels that we don't even notice now, but it's a very powerful story. This is why we use that channel, this opportunity to work together. And during our joint concert with Bono and The Edge, we appreciate it a lot in this way. The whole team that came, thank you to us. And I would like to ask our technical team to launch the trailer of the movie dedicated to the band Antitila.
Війна, яка почалася 24 лютого, вона була для нас очікуваною. Ми не знали, що це буде саме 24 лютого, але ми до цього навіть трішки готувалися. Це було питання часу.
Дімон, ти де? Я говорю, та зараз тут ще вдома, давай, бо ми вже, каже, в воєнкоматі записуємося. Приклад того, що антитіла залишили там інструменти, мікрофони і пішли воювати, це логічне рішення. Кожен просто зірвався в якийсь момент, зрозумів, бо я ж козак.
Коли почали виліти, хлопці забіжали в підвал, а він правою ногою став, а ліва була на вулиці і осколок пробив кусочок стіни кусок і прямо йому ногу там.
Тоді от я пам'ятаю, що я вже як побачив цю калюжу крові, таке внутрішнє усвідомлення прийшло, що, ну, типу, ось воно вже. Функція, ти функція. А вже в іншу чергу ти людина, яка може щось відчувати. Якщо ти будеш в першу чергу щось відчувати, це все пропускати через себе, можна просто з катушок злетіти. І ти тоді, твоя функція зводиться в мінус.
Clean a little bit and we go back.
Коли ми були на передовій, ми дали масу інтерв'ю. Розповідали французам, німцям, американцям про те, як вся країна встала боротися. Якби до вас прийшов ворог вбити вас, чи не б взяли ви до рук зброю? Чи не встали б вчителі, музиканти, лікарі, менеджери, водії автобусів на захист своєї країни? Ми переможемо і відстоїмо майбутнє не лише нашої країни, а й всієї Європи. По-іншому не буде. Слава Україні!
Serhiy and Dmytro, can you please share your impressions of the project and your participation in it? Impressions? Well, I would start with something that some artists used to say, that the artists are beyond politics. So I think this project clearly demonstrates that artists are the people who communicate everything that's going on in the country, both culture and politics, and their inner world. Serhiy, can you please help me? Well, during this film, we were remembering almost every day with Kadim, every day of that time that we were staying in the front lines. Almost 2 months we were negotiating it with Kadim why we even should take part in that project. So as we came back from the front lines to Kiev, we didn't want to take part in any projects of this kind. Kadim asked only one thing. The first thing he actually asked, even before we started that negotiation, if we had any videos from the war, and we said, yeah, sure, we have about 3 terabytes of videos. Then we started talking about the film, and he started convincing us that we have to make it. And then we've seen the results. The results that I think are supposed to work for the whole world in support of Ukraine, to involve more resources, to draw more attention in memory of those who perished. And so that we don't forget, so that nobody forgets what Ukraine is going through, why we came to that point, what we have to do in order not to let something like that repeat once again. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Andriy. So the logical question, when should we await for the premiere? Look, the film is being demonstrated since the moment of its creation. It's been demonstrated abroad. There are special events abroad, diplomatic events, big conferences like of security nature, like the one that you were helping to organize, Vienna Security Conference, Istanbul Security Conference, a conference in Strasbourg. There was a big event where our products were demonstrated, and first of all the movie about Antitila. So they already work for what Serhiy and Taras mentioned. They are doing their job. It works for the people who are decision makers, and as they first hesitate after they watch this movie, their hesitation goes to zero. And we have a lot of proposals, a lot of offers for special events in European Parliament, in the building of Parliamentary Assembly of European Union, in diplomatic events, diplomatic meetings dedicated to Ukraine and support of Ukraine. So the project, first of all, aims at drawing more attention to Ukraine. This is the absolute task of this project. Then we have a big line. If people don't know, there is an association, Watch Ukrainian, the movies for the victory. It's been 10 months straight since we have started, and it's focused on demonstration of the films for Ukrainian military. We made more than 1,250 demonstrations within the last 10 months, and it's incredibly important for the military too. And as soon as we got this product, we started demonstrating it to the military in special formats or the short movies. This product allows for this opportunity, and we see the reaction, to what extent it works, to what extent it motivates people. It relieves that question from the military, like they are here in the front line, but at the same time here are the stars. And when we had this question about our project, we can only involve like up to 200 that we have on the list, but in fact we got only 15 of them involved. So the project will work for a long time, but there will be a public online premiere planned on the 20th of June. It's our symbol, is our message of respect to Antitila. It's the birthday of Antitila as the band. Thank you, Mr. Andriy. Dear colleagues, if you have any questions or comments or reflections, please join our conversation. Well, we seem not to have any questions, so thank you very much. We will be awaiting for the premiere of the first episode. Please, Mr. Andriy. Well, I would like to add just a couple of words. I apologize. We were looking for a slogan of the project inside the team. Since it's a subtle project, we understand those should be the words which convey the essence. And watching the interviews of our characters again and again, we've seen the phrase of Taras Kompanechenko, one of our characters, where he says the following thing: we have to win in this fight. To implement this godly concept, for us to be free and to continue creating. And when we read those words, to be free and to continue creating, we understand we've understood that this is the right slogan. Dear friends, I'm reminding you that you can download the materials of the trailer using this QR code. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our armed forces for this opportunity to live and to create, to be here and to hold events like this. Thanks to everybody and glory to Ukraine.
Дякую.